So about 3 years ago, we were having a family reunion. And my family reunions, they get a bit crazy at times, like really kind of crazy. So during all the craziness, me and my brothers and my friends were riding bikes around the gravel pit that we were having the party in. And I had like the front pegs on my bike, and I came up with this brilliant idea that one of my brothers should ride on the front. So we had another bike as well with the pegs on the back. So me and one of my bestest friends, we had taken the bikes and we were riding around. And I had one of my brothers on the front, and she had one of my brothers on the back. And we were riding up the road, and we were having a great time. We were going up and down the road, and we were thinking that there was no way a car was coming down. Everybody was here. So one of the times when we were going up the road, a car, like a big white truck, started coming down. And I obnoxiously pulled over, and my brother falls off into the road. So he's laying in the road, utterly confused at what's happening, and the truck's just coming down. He falls right in front of the truck. This, mind you, like 3 years ago, I'm 10, I'm freaking out. Like, oh my God, I'm gonna kill my brother. He's laying in the road, the truck is coming down the road. I'm sitting there like, what do I do, what do I do? The truck was like 3 inches from his head. And they stopped. That was all great. And then my mother calls me over. She looks at me and says, why? I tell her that it was a great idea, it was going to be fun. It was the truck's fault. It wasn't my fault at all. And she's like, sure, just don't do it again. We go and do it again. This time, we go up towards like the big tar road. We get on the road, for whatever reason, being the smart children we were, and we're like riding back and forth in front of our driveway. And I go off the road, and he falls off again. This time he like just scrapes himself on the ground, the dirt, not the tar, thankfully. And we go back down to the gravel pit, and my mother's like, where did you go? So we tell her we were up by the road, and we were riding the bikes again. Then she was not very impressed at all. So she told us to put the bikes away. And yeah, nobody else got hurt, nobody died. It was great.
Okay, so when I was about 8 and my sister was 6, and then my little brother Kyle, he was just little. So in the middle of the summer, we were with my grandmother. We were living in Strong at the time. And we were gonna get ready to go to the beach. So the adults were sitting at the table, my mom, my Aunt Kelly, and my gram. And then the men of the house were outside with the boys. And so Allie and I were sitting on the floor in front of the couch playing babies, well, playing. And then Allie had an idea that she wanted her hair to be cut. So I told her that we could go into my grandmother's bedroom to play babies. So we ran in. I pretended to hit the door so it would close so the adults couldn't see us. And Allie just kept saying, Lexi, can you cut my hair? Can you cut my hair? And I was like, well, you should just wait for an adult to do it. And she was like, no, but I want you to. So, thinking me, I could do anything, I was looking for scissors. Nothing for scissors. Came across toenail clippers in my grandmother's bureau. They were not old, they were brand new and they were in a package. So I just kept telling her she should really wait, and she didn't want to. She was like, Lexi, you just do it. So I take them out of the package. Allie and I were sitting on the other side of my grandmother's bed on the floor, and we had our babies laid out on the bed just in case the adults walk in. So I was sitting there just like cutting, and my mom yells, "What are you girls doing in your grandmother's bedroom?" "We're playing babies." And then she questioned me. She was like, "Are you sure?" And she walked in, and I stand up. I'm like, "Ah, stay down." So she was like, "Okay." And I was like, "Nothing, we're just playing babies." Allie stands up, "Yeah, we're playing babies." And at the moment I had the toenail clippers behind my back. And when she stood up, her hair was like sloped like this. And I dropped the toenail clippers on the floor, flop on my grandmother's bed. And my mom just yells at me to never have this idea again. So then after that, my grandmother and my aunt walk in, laughing hysterically. And they had cameras taking pictures. And then we were planning to go to the beach, and we ended up going and having a great time.
Oh, sorry. So when I was about 6 or 7, I went through this phase where I would only wear comfy pants, leggings and joggers with fun patterns on them and neon colors. And if someone tried to give me a pair of jeans to put on, I would just throw a fit and refuse to wear them. So this phase lasted about a year, but it spanned through 2 grades. And I don't really know why I did this, but I think it was so I could reach my full playground potential. I mean, comfy pants, I could run around and play very easily. But the clearest memory I have of this phase was I was in Baltimore, Maryland, visiting my aunt with my whole family, and she lived just outside Baltimore. So one night we decided we were going to go to an Orioles game, and we were getting ready, and I went upstairs, and I realized the most depressing thing that I'd faced in my 7 years of life, that I was out of comfy pants. So I didn't know what to do, and then I got the great idea to just put on a dirty pair. And my mom stopped me in my tracks, and she told me, "No, you can't wear dirty pants," and she handed me a pair of these loose blue jeans. And I remember just looking at her and thinking, how could you not pack me enough comfy pants for this trip, and how could you even dare pack me jeans that you knew I wasn't going to wear? But she just put them on me, and I kind of just dealt with it. So we got to the stadium, and when you walk in, the stadium's in the middle, and around it there's a bunch of stores and the ticket booth, and you can go inside when you get through security, and there's playgrounds and stuff for all the kids to play on. And we were walking to the ticket booth, and I was arguing with my mom. I was like, "Mom, I need to go change, these are not comfortable," thinking that she could just somehow get me comfy pants if I complained enough. And she was trying to be reasonable with me, so she told me to look around. Everybody's wearing jeans, it's going to be okay, everybody wears jeans, it's a normal thing. So I was kind of dramatic as a child, and I thought that the only way to get my way would be to throw a temper tantrum. Because I figured if I was drawing attention when we got around all these people in the stadium, she would be so embarrassed that she'd just magically find a way to get me some comfy pants. So I started jumping up and down, and I was like, "Ugh, these aren't comfortable." And it just didn't work, and she just made me sit through the whole game in my comfy pants, all miserable. And I was really mad about it, but I didn't get my way. So when we got home from the trip, everything was good, and the next few months were fine. I always had my comfy pants. Until one morning, it was a really hectic morning in my house trying to get ready for school. And I remember I walked into my parents' room where the laundry basket was, and I was just searching for comfy pants, and I couldn't find any. And my mom handed me these pair of blue skinny jeans. And I was about to argue with her, and then I remembered the last time I tried to throw a fit, she didn't budge, so I decided to just put pants on. So I had these skinny jeans from the children's place and a white tank top with a pink crop top over it from Justice that said "Gymnast, Gymnast, Gymnast." And I went to school, and throughout the day I was feeling fine. And then I was walking in the gallery going upstairs to the lunchroom, and I was just strutting my stuff in my blue jeans. And my mom walked down the stairs with her class, and as she walked by, I looked at her and said, "These jeans really aren't that bad." And then it marked the end of the comfy pants era, and I started wearing jeans.
Good job. That's not a, come on, big round.
Okay.
So when we still lived in Colebrook, we used to go camping all the time during the summer. Like, we didn't care where it was, we just went. Like, we'd go camping in the gravel pit, we'd go camping out back near the little stream we had. We even went camping in the trees. Don't ask how we got the tent out there. But one of our favorite spots was in Stratford Hollow. There, you had to go between these two fields where the bulls were, out back through it, and you would come out to this clearing next to the river. And if the river was low, you would have like a little beach, and if it was high, like it would pretty much flood the land. So before we headed out to go there, my dad was in the house. He was yelling. We don't know why, so we went in there to find out. Turns out he ended up breaking the tent before even figuring, we don't even know how. Like, he was just sitting there, he was cussing, he was yelling, and just staring at the tent. I'm just like, this won't fix it. So like, he calls up my uncle, and he's like, yeah, I broke the tent. I don't know how, I just broke it. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, dude, seriously, how? And so, me and my sisters, we're running around the house, we're trying to find duct tape. Like, we're doing everything our dad taught us how to fix stuff. Duct tape always fixes everything. We get duct tape, we duct tape the hole, we call it good. We pack everything we need and we head out. So while we're driving, my dad puts on the stereo, and our favorite song comes on. I don't remember the name of it, but we love that song. We turned it all the way up, we rolled the window down, and we stick our heads out the window just yelling the song. Like, that's how you know we were coming. You could just hear us before you could even see us. So we did that, and then I ended up falling asleep. And we got there, and the way I was woken up was one of the baddest ways to be woken up. My dad slammed on the brakes, and I hit my head off the window. And so that's how I was woken up. We got out of the car, we unpacked everything, and to my surprise, I walked by this tree, this nice tree I got tangled in one time with wires and all that. And we walked by it, and my uncle, my aunt, and my other uncle jump out and scare the crap out of me. I literally take my fist and I hit my uncle right where it hurts. Because of how bad he scared the crap out of me. Like, it's bad. He ended up falling over, my aunt had to help him up, and like everybody's just dying of laughter. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, why? And so like they all start unpacking and all that. They brought a camper, they set the camp up. And so like when we're all done with all that, we eat lunch a bit early, like a snack time lunch, and then we get ready to head down to the river. So like I'm jumping down the hill and all that, just getting to the river, and I'm standing there and I'm like, Dad, where's the fishing poles? And so he gets out the fishing poles, we get ready to fish. He says, I'm not allowed to cast because I'm too young. He walks away, I want to cast so bad. I get the fishing pole in my hand. I swing back and I go like this. He caught Marion right here in the ear. I'm looking back and I'm like, crap. I dropped the fishing pole and I book it. I'm like, nope, not today. My dad finds me, he's like, did you do this? I'm like, I did it. He's like, you did good by getting it in her ear, but you're not supposed to do that. And I'm like, I know. I didn't listen. He was like, yeah. So like he takes the fishing pole away, but then I'm like, Dad. He's like, yes. Can I fish now? He's like, whatever. So I ended up catching 3 fishes and all that. And I hear the adults talking about floaties and all that, so they have all those set up. And like they're out in the water, they're pushing each other off the rafts and all that. And then my uncle John, he's like so smart. He gets the bright idea to climb a tree and jump into the floaty that he set up in the water. I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, this sounds like fun. So I'm like, I look at Dad and I'm like, after Uncle John does it, can I do it? And he's like, sure. So when Uncle John climbs the tree that's over the water, he gets ready to jump. He jumps. Pop. I look back over and I'm like, where'd he go? And like, I just hear my dad, my aunt, my other uncle just die laughing. I'm like, what? And all I see is my Uncle John just flat out in the water. I'm like, where'd the floaty go? My uncle and my dad, they swim over to him, they pull him back to the land, and the floaty's there. Half of it's missing though. I'm like, come on, dude. I want to do that. So Dad looks at me, he's like, you can't do it anymore. And I'm like, and I look at my Uncle John with that look, says, you're dumb. You broke the floaty I wanted to use. Come on. And he knows I'm giving him that look, so he turns around to walk away from me because he's like, I'm not getting into it with like a 5-year-old. I'm like, I'm not 5, I'm 7. And so he turns around, he starts walking. I just fall on the ground and I'm dying. His entire back's red and it has imprints of the floaty. Alligator scale imprints on his back. I'm dying. He's looking at me like, why is she laughing? My Aunt Laura took a picture of his back and showed it to him. He started to laugh and he ended up crying because it hurt so much. So he ended up having to go sit up at the campsite because he wanted to do it again to prove me wrong. So we ended up finishing up down there. I caught 3 fish. We headed back up. We actually ate lunch, and then after that we decided to like play a game of hide and seek because it's closer to like nighttime and all that. So we played hide and seek, and then after a while we ate supper, and then we decided to play manhunt. So kids against adults, adults don't need to try since you're a kid. So they hid like underneath the camper, behind the truck, behind a tree, and then after we found all of them, it was our turn to hide. I hid so well nobody could find me. Anastasia hid on top of the camper. Marion hid in a bush. I swore it was that poison ivy, so I'm like, I must have moved to her, and I'm like, that might be poison ivy. So I ended up scaring her out of her hiding place. Like she ran over to Dad, like, Dad, I think I got poison ivy. And I'm just up in the tree and I'm trying not to die of laughter. And then my Uncle John finds Anastasia on top of the camper and looks at her like, what the hell are you doing up there? And then like, they're all still trying to find me. I'm just watching them. I'm like, I'm gonna be here all night probably. And it gets a lot darker, so they ended up having to set up the fire. Crack, crack, crackle. And I'm just sitting up in the tree and they end up giving up, so they sit around the fire and they're yelling out, Sierra, you won the game, can't find you. And they actually started getting worried now. It's been like 2 hours since we're playing the game. And so like I have acorns and like some crab apples next to me. So I'm sitting there, I'm just throwing it at them. Like they don't know where it's coming from, I'm just hugging them. I hit my uncle in the head twice. I almost hit my aunt, but she actually has good reflexes, so she dodged it. And after I ran out of ammunition, I jumped out the tree, and they just look at me, and my Uncle John starts chasing me, because I hit him in the head. Like, I was small, and I was very slow, but if I can get underneath something, that's where I will hide. So the truck went down to here. I somehow managed to get underneath it, and like, I just stayed there. Until my dad came over and was like, John, leave her alone. You're an easy target anyways. And so like, I ended up coming out. We ate some s'mores, and then Dad's like, we'll sing one song, and then we gotta go to bed. The song we sang was not the most appropriate song for somebody my age to know, but it was still a good song. So we sang the song, and then we headed to bed, and yeah, that's how it ended.
So, it was a cool summer night, sometime in the summer. My boys hit me up and they said, come to the park, let's hang. And I was like, okay bro. So I pulled up at the park. I was looking around for them, but they're at the tennis court. That's what it's called. The tennis court. So I went down to the tennis court and Maya told me I looked like James Charles. So then we proceeded down to the dock. So usually I would sit on my skateboard, like set it down and sit on it, just because that's better than the ground. So we were on the dock and I set my skateboard down to sit on it. And I wanted my phone so I could look at people's stories on Snapchat. And Maya, my boy, wanting to discover my deepest, darkest secrets, snatched my phone out of my grasp. So I chased her down. I was like, that's my phone. But my skateboard had nothing holding it in place anymore. So it just rolled into the lake splash. So at that point, the phone didn't matter to me anymore. I was just like, keep the phone. It's yours now. So skateboard's in the lake, and then my other boy, I turn to her, I say, fetch it for me. So she whips off her shirt. She's like, whoa, let's get it. So she hops into the lake. She goes in for round one, grabbing the board. I was like, I didn't think she was going to get it, obviously, because it was in the deep end, so no hope. So she goes in, nothing. Then me and Maya turn around. And we see a large gang approaching the park. Upon first glance, it seemed like a random group of gangbangers. But we look again, and it's nothing but Winnie Larshell and her crew. So they come down to the dock, we greet them, of course, and Winnie's homeboy notices that I'm making somebody else get the skateboard for me, and that's like, that's not cool. Like, get it yourself, kid. So she makes me feel bad about myself, and I'm like, okay, nothing new here. So, I'm getting insulted and stuff. So then, my other boy, she goes in for round 2 and retrieving the skateboard. She comes up, nothing. I'm starting to lose hope. So I offer her $10 and a hug if she is successful. The $10, my dad gave it to me to go get ice cream, but I figured, I'd rather have a skateboard than ice cream. So I offer her that and a hug, and she's like, oh my god, yeah. So she goes in for round 3. She gets the board, so she slams it up onto the dock, and I'm so happy. So I hand her the $10, and we head out of the park, and on our way out on the path, I try to give her a big fat hug, but she rejects me. And I ride home to victory with my skateboard underneath my feet.
Dude, I'd be so depressed if I lost.
Big round of applause for that.
Okay. I fought a bear one time. No, I'm kidding. So this is a story about a ski crash that I almost died in, but I didn't, so it's okay. But it happened last year. We were taking some free runs before a race, and Hawk was having us start out as a race shack, so we get that feeling, that rush of adrenaline. And so I was pulling up to that race shack, and it's kind of intimidating. Like, you see it, and it's like, oh gosh, that's my launch pad right there. I'm about to fly out of that thing. It's basically just like your launch pad. So I went in that race shack, and Hawk's like, okay, Hannah, treat it like the real race. Like, make your course, go around those gates, just visualize yourself. So I'm in that shack, and I'm getting ready. I'm like, alright. So I start taking these huge, pole plants, and I'm going, and I'm really into it. And so I'm supposed to be turning and stuff, but I'm not going fast enough, so I just keep trucking and stuff. So once I get going to the speed that I feel is fast enough, I start doing my turns, and I've all of a sudden reached the pitch. So Black Mountain, it's kind of flat, down, and then like that, and then down again. So I was going down the first pitch, and I was like, oh gosh, I'm going a little too quick right now. So I started doing bigger turns, because at first I was just going like that when I was supposed to be going like this. And then all of a sudden, I feel pressure under my legs, and I'm going like this all of a sudden, because I'm reaching that upward point on the mountain, and I'm like, uh-oh, it's too late to go back now. And all of a sudden, I'm just in the air, and I'm like, oh God. And all I see is Jesus Christ, open arms, your time has come. And so I'm in the air, and I'm like, okay, Hannah, it's 2 options right now. And it's either to pass out and just fall and never get back up, or brace yourself and stay alive. And so I just wrap my arms around my body and tighten up completely and land right on my left shoulder, and it's just and so I hit the snow, and I'm skidding for what felt like a mile, but it wasn't a mile. And I went through the whole woods. I hit all these twigs and everything. Luckily, luckily not a tree. And but then I hit a telephone pole and hit my left shoulder, and I just kind of got a bruise. And eventually everything just stopped, and I was like, oh my God, I'm still alive. So I got up and I looked down and I only had one ski on, and I turned my back and I was like, where the hell did my ski go? And little did I know, at that same time, certified ski patrollers and people from the lift line and people on the chairlift, other than the people on the chairlift, were all running up the mountain in all their gear, like thinking I was dead. And once they saw me stand up, they were probably like, thank God. And yeah, so that was pretty aggressive. And so I found my ski, I put both skis back on, and I just finished the run casually, and I got to the bottom, and all those people that were running up to get me come up to me and they're like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, like obviously. and they're like, are you sure? And I'm like, I think. And they're like, okay, you should go inside for a bit. And I'm like, well, I'm fine, I don't have to. But then I was like, you know, it would be nice, so I didn't say that. I was just like, okay, because I wanted to go inside and get warm and stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, I think I speak for everybody when I'm...
If I try to, I wasn't that bad.
Okay, so me and my sister are walking up to my grandparents' house because it's a beautiful day outside, and we're like, let's go to my grandparents' house because they literally lived like, our house was maybe a fourth of a mile from their house. And so we're walking up to my grandparents' house, and my grandmother isn't at the house, she's down at the barn. So we go to the barn thinking that we're gonna have a nice normal day, we're gonna hang out, just like hang out. So we walk in and my Nana goes, well, we're riding horses today. And we're all like, cool, we're riding horses. So we get the horses ready, we brush them down, and then we put their saddles on, their bridles on and everything. Then we get ready to leave. And then we like bring them up, I guess. I don't know, it's hard to explain. We didn't really live on a real road, we lived on a dirt road, so there are no really cars, so you can ride up and down the street. So we rode them up to the house, and we're riding down the trail. Clip clop, clip clop. And my sister's on her horse, Strawberry. She's a kind of small horse, and she's strawberry blonde. And I'm riding on my bay mare, who is super small, and she's basically a pony, but she's pretty big for a pony, so she technically could be called a horse, but she's not a horse because she's kind of smaller than a horse. Horses are difficult. It's hard to explain. And my Nana's on her big, like 15-hand horse named Dancer. He's like huge. Huge. Like elephant huge. I'm not quite sure if you can compare a horse to an elephant, but... Okay, so we're heading down the trail, and like my Nana and grandfather have like 3 big fields that we use for the horses to hay on. So we're heading down the trail that's like next to them, and we're halfway down the trail, and my sister, who's all the way in the front, turns around and goes, do you guys want to head back to the barn or finish going all the way back down the trail? And it's like quite a ways. It's almost, because like all the fields together are like 110 acres. So, which isn't including like the length of them, like the length of the trail, that's just like the open areas that are there. So my sister asks the question, do you want to go to the barn? My horse hears barn and goes, yeah, I can do that. Turns around, books it, and then I turn around and like I'm on my horse, my hair is going everywhere. I'm trying so hard to stay on this horse. And I turn and look right over my shoulder, and my Nana's horse is freaking out because horses are herd animals and we split them. So he's freaking out. He has no idea if he should go there or if he should go there. And he's freaking out. He starts bucking and literally throws my Nana off of him. My Nana is holding on to the reins trying to stop him from going where he's trying to go, but he is not stopping. And he took off like maybe like 50 to 100 yards over there, which is where like the bigger horses are. So he just ran over there to where more horses were because he didn't know where he was going or what he was doing. And my sister is continuing down the trail, has no idea what's going on. And you literally see her like look over her shoulder and she's like, come on guys, come on. And so my horse is literally going way faster than this horse has ever gone. Like, she is a slow horse. Like, if you're thinking like cars, my horse is basically a Subaru. So we get all the way up to where the second barn is by the house. So like it's like a rather smaller barn, but that's where they keep the hay and like the four-wheelers and stuff. And that's where the bigger horses are, like right next to there. So my horse gets there and then she like just stops. No moving, no nothing. And just stops. And then my sister comes up after she like canters her horse all the way back, which is basically horse equivalent for sprinting. And we all meet up right where we started at my Nana's house, and my sister was like, well, it looked like you guys were having so much fun that I just kept going. And luckily no one was hurt. My Nana was fine after that. Just a little bruised, all of us, except for my sister, who had a great time.
I just did it. Alright. So I was 6 or 7 years old at the time when this event happened. I'm just going to say this now, it really hurt. So me and my dad come up with a plan to go fishing. So I decided to get dressed while he was drinking his coffee and having a good time with his coffee. He loves his coffee. And so I decided to get dressed, go outside, and when I went outside, I looked over the garden, looked over at the garden, and decided, I'm gonna go get my mom's garden tool. So I went over, grabbed my mother's gardening tool. It was like fork-shaped, like prongs. I don't even know. Prongs. Thank you. So I went over, grabbed it, and I walked over. And on the very edge of the tar, it was nice, soft, and moist dirt. So I started digging, and I don't like shoes. I never liked shoes, like when I was little, 6, 7 years old. So I decided to start digging, and after a while, I got the garden fork through my toe. It was ridiculously stupid. I was not crying yet. So I was screaming at the very top of my lungs. And so my mother came out, what happened? And so I explained. I went over to her garden, grabbed her garden fork, and I started digging. And after I told everything that happened, I decided to pull it out.
Oh no.
And blood was just gushing out of my toe. And so my sister came out with a wet washcloth. She picked me up, put me in the car, and while she was bringing me to the car, I looked through my toe. You can see directly through my toe. And, you know, we went to the hospital in Farmington, and so the doctor didn't clean it out. I could see dirt in it. And all he did was put a Band-Aid on it. And I looked at him like he was really stupid. Like, who would just put a Band-Aid on it? Like, aren't you supposed to clean them out if, like, something went through your toe and had dirt on it so it doesn't get infected? Like, seriously. People, You can see through my toe and you don't clean it out. You're dumb. That's it.
What else do you expect from farm?
My family really liked the holidays, like Christmas and Halloween and stuff. We really liked Easter. So we had a lot of like decorations and stuff, like baskets and eggs. And we had these like rabbits that were like fake, that had like wire on the inside and like felt on the outside, so they looked kind of like real. And they were like pretty decent height for how tall I was, because I was like small. And so we had those like out around the house and stuff. So I was like 4 years old, and Lil Ella could not sleep, per usual. Did not sleep ever. I always slept in my parents' bed. So it was rare that I was ever in my own bed. And I couldn't sleep. So I was like, I'm gonna go to my parents' room. There's a catch. It's the night before Easter, and I'm not getting caught by the Easter Bunny. I want chocolate, I want candy, not happening. So what I do is I make this plan in my head that I'm going to like scale the walls like ninja style, like down the hallway into my parents' room. So I put my plan into action here, and I'm like scaling the walls like a ninja, and I'm like crawling on the ground. Like you can picture this like little Ella like bangs crawling on the ground. And I have this plan also to like go behind the exercise machine to like be extra sneaky. And I'm like kind of like looking at the ground. I'm just trying not to get caught by anybody. And I'm getting like behind the exercise machine, and I'm like almost out of there, and I'm almost like about to book it to my parents' room. And I see one of those fake rabbits, and I am convinced that that is the Easter Bunny. Screams, top of my lungs, screams, run back to my room. Nobody heard me. No idea how. I was horrified. I was like, God, this is over. No candy. Easter Bunny caught me. Game over. Life done. Did not sleep the rest of that night. Next morning, there was candy. It's kind of like, but I was then horrified at the Easter Bunny for quite a while after that. And then I kind of like came to the realization of like what actually happened. So, yeah, that's.
It's the August. It was August of 2018, and I was just chilling at my house, you know, bored chase. I was like, I'm gonna go to Will Dugan's house. Didn't get nothing of it. I hang out with him all the time. So, get in the car, go to his house. Of course, my mother drove me. Can't drive. And so we got to his house, and we knew we weren't gonna do much because it was just a boring August day, and it's still summer vacation. And we went to town, kind of walked around, and blah blah blah, messed with people, stuff like that. Nothing fun. Anyway, we went up to his house, and I noticed that he had a four-wheeler in his backyard, and I was like, yo, you have a dirt bike, there's a four-wheeler. We're gonna do something fun with this. So he's like, no, the thing's been there for like 2 years, it's never gonna start. So I was like pulling at it, hoping it would start, and didn't start. So we went inside and played on his Xbox. We played Fortnite, it was popular, come on. And so it was like 30 minutes, and we were like, come on man, we gotta do something, can't do this. He's like, let's go try it one more time. So, being the strong, muscular guy I am, I gave it 2 pulls. I was like, and then I was like, you hear that? Started up. It's like, and it started right up. I was like, we're gonna do this. So, we were riding around his yard for a little bit, and then I thought of a great idea. Let's go ride in a Quasic. And the four-wheeler and the dirt bike, they're not registered. We're also underage, we're not allowed to ride on the roads, and there's like a hole in the exhaust of the four-wheeler, and it's really loud, so that could be bad. Alright, we were riding around town. I think we were everywhere, and I thought of the great idea of stopping, putting the four-wheeler in neutral, and just revving it, just like and I did that, and I was around a whole bunch of houses. I think I was near Bristol's house.
Yeah.
And then we were like, okay, that was probably not the smartest idea, so we booked it up this dirt road to this pit. Then, after that, Amber came up in the car, and we were like confused, like probably telling us to go back to the house. And then, you know, Amber being the usual chill parent, like, guys, come back to the house. She was quite the opposite. She was like, why the hell are there cops down the road? And now me and Will are looking at each other like, bro, you did something wrong. We're trying to rewind time, thinking of what we did wrong, and then we're like, oh, everything. So she said there was like cops and game wardens everywhere around town, and we're freaking out. We're like, we're too young to die and go to jail, and they're gonna put us in execution. Really not. And so we found some really tall bushes and ditched the dirt bike and the four-wheeler in the bushes, hoping that nobody would find them, or hopefully nobody would go up the road. So we got in her car and we booked it down to her house. Luckily, on the way there was no cops or game wardens. But we checked a little later, and by like Aquatic grocery and stuff, there was like 5 cop cars and like 3 game wardens. And we were thinking, this isn't that bad. Did we do something this bad? So we went to his house, and we got back on the Xbox thinking, please don't come to this house, because they thought the lady that called the cops on us thought we were someone else in Aquatic. But that wasn't going through our heads. We were thinking, oh wow, Will's done this multiple times. They probably thought it was him. So we're playing Xbox, and every like 5 seconds we look over our shoulder out the window, hoping the cops didn't just pull into our driveway. And we were just freaking out, still freaking out. An hour went by as we were playing still Fortnite, because popularity, and nobody showed up, and we're like, thank God, nothing's there. And we went the rest of the night knowing we were safe, and yeah, the end.
Okay, so last summer around mid-July, my cousins from New Hampshire were at Colin and Emma. And usually when they come up in the summer, we spend our days on the water, jet skiing, tubing, all that fun stuff. So one day, Colin was begging me to take him out on the jet ski. And in order to ride a jet ski, you have to be 16. And at the time, I was 15. And he was about 7. So he was begging and begging, so I finally caved in, being the fun cousin I am. And I went to go ask my parents. And that summer, my parents allowed me to drive the jet ski just because I was safe and drove the speed limit. And so, with no surprise, they said yes. So we started heading out. We had our life jackets on. It was going good. It was pretty calm out. And so Colin asked to drive. I let him drive. And if any of you know my cousin, you know he's a daredevil and just does about anything. So the only thing I was worried about at this time was the game wardens. And so I look around as he's driving. I didn't see anything in my sights, so it was good. And then I looked towards Aquatic, and we were in Greenville Cove at the time. And I looked towards Aquatic, and this greenish boat is coming right towards us. And so I wasn't really panicking because I thought maybe it was fishermen or people on a nightly cruise or something. So we're going this way, and I just told Colin, let me drive just in case. So we start heading back home. They're coming this way, and just as I thought they passed us, they took a sharp turn and followed right behind us. So at this point, I'm panicking, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna get pulled over, we're gonna go to jail. And so I look in my rear view mirror, or my side view mirror, and they're coming right beside us. And I just tell Colin, whatever you do, don't look behind you. And so he says to me, he goes, they're right behind us, they're coming for us, they're trying to flag us down. So I just tell Colin, stop, just don't look back. So at this point I'm probably going 50, and I'm just trying to set a good example for Colin and just be the adult in the situation, but that's like the opposite of what I was doing. And so, poor Colin's probably eating my hair at this time. The wind is like blowing. I just told him to hold on. And so we are almost to Town Cove,
and we get to near the park, and by my surprise, the game wardens took a turn and didn't follow us home. And so I just have a sigh of relief. I'm so confused why they didn't come up to us and, get us in trouble. And at this time, before I thought they were going to follow us, I was just going to blame it on my parents because it was all their fault, and because they were the ones who let me drive. So then Colin and I park the jet ski so fast and run up to the house and tell everybody. And nobody can take us seriously, and they're all laughing at us. And Colin and I just, to this day, that was one of the scariest times of our lives. And so, yeah.
One morning, no, actually it wasn't the morning, it was in the afternoon. It was in the summer, and I was with my 2 siblings, and they were like, oh, let's go swimming. So it was hot, so we went swimming, and we have this rock that my grandfather got us. Mind you, he was babysitting us that day. Both my grandparents were at work, so we were kind of a handful for him. And he has this rock that we throw out in the water and then go find it. And we keep doing that over and over again. And so we got bored of that after we found it probably over 20 times. We almost lost it once, but we found it. But we got bored of that, so then we had this brilliant idea. We were gonna go biking for 2 miles down the road towards this cove area where you can go fishing and stuff, because my siblings wanted to go. I didn't like fishing at the time. So I was just gonna bike with them because I couldn't be left home alone. I was only 7 or 8. And so we bike, and I veering all over the road with the bike. So I almost hit my siblings probably 4 times. My brother fell off his bike because of me. And we finally get there to this really big hill. It was so steep. Never really seen it. It's Cemetery Hill, but really steeper. And my brother and my siblings go down it first, and they were fine. I was scared, so I was freaking out because I was no, I'm not going down there. I'll have my bike in the truck, and Grandpa can bring me down there. And I ended up being brave and going down because my siblings were oh, it's totally fine. I just went down it. They're at the bottom of the hill yelling up to me, just do it, just do it. And I'm no, I'm not doing that. And they were it's totally fine. I'm no, it's not. But I full send it and go down. Remind you, when they go down, it does not look like there's bumps, but the entire way down there is potholes, so not even halfway down the hill, I end up falling off my bike and tumbling with my bike all the way down. And so I was all scraped up, bleeding everywhere. And I was freaking out even more, and I'm oh my god, my grandma's gonna kill me when I get home. She's gonna be what happened, what happened, you're never doing that again, we're getting rid of your bike. Whatever. So we get down there, and my brother's oh, just go in the water, you have your bathing suit on out underneath. So I didn't want to do that, and I was we need to go home, we need to go clean this up. I was freaking out still. So I ended up putting my bike in the back of his truck, and he was bringing me home, but of course my siblings didn't want to get in the truck and go home, so it took us over an hour to get back. While I'm sitting there in the truck, still bleeding, or whatever, everywhere. And they're oh, you're fine, and I kept on yelling to them out the window, just get in the truck. And at that point, I was freaking out because I thought I was losing a lot of blood. Crying, screaming, basically. And so we finally get there, we clean me up and stuff, and then we're oh, let's go swimming again. So we go swimming. It totally stung because we didn't really put any bandages on or anything. And my grandma comes home, she freaks out, asks what happened. We had to explain the entire story. I was oh, it was just a bike accident, it's okay, I'm fine. But really I wasn't fine. I was still really sore. And so she was oh, well, you need to go in the water because it's still bleeding. And I'm I'm fine. She's no, you need to go in the water. So I go in the water, and I completely melt down because it stung really bad. She's you'll be fine, you'll be fine. So she made me stay in the water for 10 minutes. I was no, I'm not staying in there. So I get out, and then she was well, you're going to have to sit here if you don't go back in. And I'm fine, I'll go back in. And sooner or later that afternoon, I was totally fine. She kind of got mad at us for doing that, yelled at us, told us that we weren't going to be able to do that again. Continue, years later, I still ride my bike all the way down that road. There.
Okay. So when I was around 4 or 5 years old, my mom took me to Portland Mall. We were doing shopping and I was going to meet Santa. And I was so excited to meet Santa, I wouldn't stop talking about it. I was ranting on and on about it. It felt like we were in the mall for 12 hours before we got to see Santa. And as you can imagine, any 4-year-old wanting something, they're bouncing around, they don't stop talking about it. They're always like, oh, you ready? How about now? Like, can we go see Santa? Yeah, that was me. So finally we're done, we go to eat, finish eating, and we're making our way to Santa. And there's a bunch of signs saying, oh, if you want to see Santa, like, keep going this way in the mall. And like, my mom couldn't walk fast enough. I was like grabbing her arm and like running her down the mall. And she's like frustrated but not saying anything because she knows I want to meet Santa. So what felt like a mile walk, I finally get to where Santa is. And there's 2 like rows on each side. One's where you enter and then the other's where you exit. And where you enter, there's like a red carpet that you stand on, walk up to see Santa, and they have like red ribbon, you know, fancy rose. And I'm at the end of it, and I can't see Santa, but I can hear him. And there's a bunch of signs, and I can see like the camera light flashing, and I'm really excited. And then everything changed. I was 4 spots away, and there were 2 girls in front of me and a guy, a little boy, who was gonna see Santa also. And every time they went up, they cried. And all of a sudden, I didn't want to see Santa anymore. So I didn't say anything to my mom. Like, I thought I didn't want to see Santa anymore. I just kind of did it because I dragged her all this way. So I felt bad. And we finally, it's my turn, and I like won't let go of my mom's hand. And I'm just holding it, and I'm not letting go. And she was like, come on, honey, like, go over there. So I'm like almost about to cry because I don't want to do it, but I'm like, you know, like just trying to like hold it in and just get it over with. And she picks me up and puts me on Santa's lap, and I jump off and I start bawling my eyes out because I didn't want to be near him. And so apparently for like a 4-year-old brain, I guess seeing like a fat guy in a red costume with a long white beard is not the most appealing thing who just wants to talk to you. So I didn't talk to him, I didn't look at him. So finally my mom gets me to like calm down and I'm not crying anymore. And she's like, okay, when you just stand next to Santa and just smile, it'll take like 3 seconds. So I stand next to Santa, like 10 feet away from him. And I am wearing white leggings with a white shirt that has like beads across it that are pink, and a big pink tutu that like sticks out this far. And I had on fancy, strappy pink sandals, and my hair is like all fancy. And I just kind of tuck my arms behind my back, and I sit there and I smile. And the camera person is like, okay, 3, 2, 1. And you see the flash, and she's like, okay, good job. And I just run to my mom, who's now on the exit side where like it has the red carpet leading out. And I just kind of grab my mom's like shirt, and we start walking off, and she has the photo, and she shows it to me, and I'm holding it, I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, that wasn't that bad, like it's over with, but I'm not gonna do it again. So we're leaving the mall now, and I'm looking at the photo, and I think it looks amazing. And my mom didn't really say anything to me, she just said like, you know, good job, honey, like, you know, it wasn't that bad, was it? And I was like, no, and, like, I just wanted to leave. And so I guess what I learned from this was like, don't take other people's opinions and like have it change yours, because like it kind of ruined my Santa moment, even though I don't ever want to meet Santa again. And that my parents really put me in harm's way. So.
Okay, so when I was 4 years old, my brother was 11 and my sister was 8. So they were always busy with school and after-school activities, and I wasn't because I was 4. So I stayed at home with my babysitter most of the time. And she was really boring from what I remember. And I didn't think my parents paid enough attention to me as they did my siblings because I didn't have anything as important going on. And so to get their mind focused on me and only me, I decided that I was going to do something so drastic that they would never forget it. So
My bedtime when I was 4 was around 8 p.m., 8:30 p.m. actually. And I spent the whole day thinking about what I was going to do. Nothing came to mind. I thought about throwing a tantrum, but it didn't really sit too well with me because I threw kicking and screaming, face-turning red tantrums all the time. And so 8 o'clock rolls around. I still have no clue what I'm going to do. Nothing's crossed my mind. And then 8:30 happens. I just finished my bath, and my mom starts tucking me into bed. "Good night, sweetie," she says as she tucks me into bed as I'm still planning my big event. "Good night," I say back as I'm still planning my big event, as she leaves my room, turns off the light, and pulls the door to. And so I waited a little while before I jumped back out of bed just to make sure my mom wouldn't try to check on me. And after waiting for what felt like 30 minutes but was probably only 5, I jumped out of bed and I started looking around my room for something I could use or do to get my parents' attention. And after standing there for a while, I look over and I see them. My safety scissors. I didn't really know what to do with them yet, but after looking in the mirror at my long brown hair, I finally knew what I was going to do. I threw my hair up into a ponytail as good as I could get it up into, looked back in the mirror, and made my first cut. Snip, snip, snip is all you could hear as I was cutting the ponytail off of my head. I looked back in the mirror, realized there was no going back now, and I continued snipping. 15 minutes later, I look in the mirror at my masterpiece. My hair was not even at all, and it looked like a disaster. I could not describe how proud I was of myself. All I could think about was my mom's face in the morning whenever she was going to see me next, and I just started giggling at the thought of how mad she'd be and how much attention I'd get from my parents. But what happened next I wasn't expecting so soon. My mom knocks on the door, wondering what I'm laughing about so late after the time I'm supposed to be asleep. She takes one look at me, and the face she made was priceless. It was a mixture of shocked, mad, and confused. "What did you do to your hair?" she yells, still trying to process what she just walked into. "I just cut a little off," I said, as I was holding at least 75% of my hair in my hands. She calls my dad into my room to make him come look at the mess I just created. And as they were yelling at me and getting mad, all I could think about was how perfect my plan was working out. But what I didn't realize was that my hair was not going to grow back overnight. I was stuck looking like a wreck. But I guess you could say it was worth it because I got my parents' attention from that night on.
Hello, fellow freshmen.
Okay. Did everybody? Who am I missing? Okay. You good?
Yeah.
Okay, everybody. This is what you paid for. This is it. Bristol Quimby. Come on. Give it to her.
Ow.
Hey, you gotta stay more front so the camera.
So, my story happened mid-July, I think. It was a really hot summer's day, and Maya was sleeping over at my house, and my siblings, Bree and Barrett, they each had friends sleeping over too. I had thought of this game that we could play. Mind you, it was really stupid. We were gonna put sleeping bags over our head, and whoever could make it to the hill on the other side of my lawn would win. Because I was really stupid, we went with it anyway. We decided to do it. I went first for my team, so Maya was spinning me, and when she said go, I ran as fast as I would if I saw tacos sitting on a table 100 feet away. I mean, Usain bolted up in here. I ran into a tree. I had a huge bruise on my leg right here for about a week after that, but I was okay, so we decided to keep going. Next up was Maya, Amelia, and Cameron. They were racing, and when I said go, all I see is tiny little Amelia on the ground because her sleeping bag had like swallowed her whole. It was hilarious. That was probably the second sign that we should stop, but we kept going anyway. Now it was time for the last round. The last round is when we got the most competitive. So it was Maya, Bree, and Barrett racing. We were spinning them. We had to spin them 20 times. And when I said go, they started like freaking booking it to the hill. It was the fastest I've ever seen Maya run, not gonna lie. But I noticed that Maya was running into the ditch. Like, Maya, turn left! She turned right. And then all I hear is Amelia yelling, Maya, your other left. As you can tell, she's really bad with directions. She was running, and all I heard was a there goes Maya, falling over without even bending her knees. She ran into my camper. It was hilarious. And all I heard was my Uncle Jimmy yelling out, I hope you didn't dent my side of the camper. Jeez. So we went over to see if she was okay. She was fine. She had a little bruise, but she was okay. But we had forgotten about Bree. Breezy, she was still going. All I heard was, ah! She fell into the ditch. She was soaked with mud and water, and it was bad. We went over to see if she was okay. She was fine. We went to go get her a change of clothes. She was all dry. And we didn't play that game for the rest of the weekend, but we did find another game to play the next day with Trevor. We decided to throw apples at each other. Let's just say that Maya was pretty injury prone that weekend.
Okay, I changed my story. Of course. It's a little bit funnier. It was a crisp fall afternoon. It was a ski team fundraiser I went to.
Dear Lord.
And we were having a good time. And I was hanging out with Logan and Will Dugan. I don't know why Will Dugan's in a lot of bad stuff, but sorry. And we were just sitting around having fun. We were watching the horses and stuff over by the food and stuff on the trampoline. And me and Will look over, and there's Emeray's younger brother, Bridger, on the tricycle. So, of course, he hops off of it. Me and Will are fighting over it. And Logan finds another tricycle, like up the street a little bit. So he hops on that. I find this scooter, because I let Will have it. Logan's got the only bike with brakes on it. Well, we think it's a good idea to race down the hill. And me and Will get in front of Logan a little bit. And we get all the way down the hill. We're like racing next to Wyatt's dad's truck when they're leaving. And we get to the bottom, and we notice Logan didn't make it. And they're sitting there like, where'd he go? And I get off my trike and I turn around, and Logan's in the ditch. And I'm like, what did he do now? Somehow this kid managed to shove his handlebars through his forehead. And he was bleeding very bad. And I don't know if you've seen this kid with blood, but it's not a good situation. Bill Bride turns back around and races up, and he gets out of the truck and looks at Logan, and he can't even see half of his face because it's covered in blood. And Logan's like, I don't want to die today. It's not the right day. Yeah. And I was like, Logan, buddy, you're fine. You're fine. You're not going to die. So I run up and grab Missy, and of course, Missy being Logan's mom, what did the dumbass do now? And I was like, that's a good one. It's a good one. So, of course, they race down the hill, and all the kids have to kind of go up the hill because Logan's kind of just bleeding out there. He shoved his sweatshirt on his forehead and get the ambulance there, and Logan hops in it. And, to this day, Logan has a little saying that he likes to follow by. He doesn't dream, he drifts.
I do. I don't dream.
And very, very good day.
Logan!
Yeah, I don't know. Do I really have anything else to share? Your perspective?
Yeah. Tell your story the way you told it, the way you tell it.
Very little other details
How
to
did
share.
you feel
do
when
it,
Will
send
and
it.
Nathan were fighting over the tiny one? Got the big
So there you go.
It was late October, and we had packed up early in the morning to go to the cow patty bingo. We had to pack up the cow into the trailer, and so we had to lift it up because she refused to go into the trailer. And I made the mistake of being behind the cow in the first place.
That's a very bad decision. Guarantee
When they were picking it up, it started freaking out, and it kicked me in the gut. So after that, I immediately went in the truck. Then we headed to the McFawn's house, and it was pretty cold. And by the time that we had gotten everything set up, we had found the drift tricycles and the scooter. We started biking up and down the hill, and at first we went halfway down the road and there was a turn, and we would drift around the turn that way, and I had hit that one a little too hard in the first place, and I fell into that ditch, and I had just scraped my elbow. And then I had gone up to lunch, and I told Bill that I had taken a bit of a digger into the ditch, and so he told me, "You're gonna have to come back with a bigger scratch than that to impress me." Boy, did I prove him wrong. Then Nathan, Will, and I decided to go down the hill again, this time all the way down the road. And so we started going down, got a little bit windy, and about 3/4 of the way down, my boot got stuck. It went under the pedal, scraped a good chunk of the boot off. It went through my pant leg, the pedal, and I went to a double 360 and went backwards into the ditch. At first I thought, I'm just going into a driveway, because I saw gravel out of the corner of my eye. And then I feel strong downforce on me, and I look forward, 2 bolts on the handlebar, coming straight for my face. Ow. Hurt really bad, and I screamed really loud. Nobody heard me. I stopped. I was super cold because of all the mud and all the cold water from the 40-degree ditch. And I crawled up, and I luckily saw Bill and Wyatt in their truck drive by, and I just started flailing my arms out, trying to get their attention. And I was scared because I at first thought, what if they saw me? And I also, my face felt really wet, so I thought it was just the mud. But I was bleeding really bad, and I thought I had lost my eye because I couldn't feel it and I couldn't see out of my eye. I had very little pinpoint visibility out of my eye. Couldn't really see much. And luckily they saw me, and they turned around, and so Bill and Wyatt had gotten out of the truck and told Wyatt to go get some napkins out of the glove box. And at this point, Will and Nathan were 200, 300 feet down the road, not knowing where I was. And it took them a bit until they saw Bill turn around the road. Then they started to head up. And then my parents came down and they were worried. Then the paramedics and a police officer came. And as soon as the police officer got there, they went, looked at me, and then left. And then Harold and Corey were paramedics at the time, and they were really careful, and they got me into the ambulance, and they had to lift me up when they had to cut off my sweatshirt, which at the time it looked like a festive sweater. And they were very careful because they thought I at first had broken my neck. And so, you know, it's a little scary when you can't see anything out of your eye and they're lifting you up. They had cleaned me up and they iced my eye, and they didn't have a driver because they had a call out somewhere else at the time. And so Johnny, I don't know, Nathan would know. For those of you who do know, Johnny drives like a maniac. He's a bit of a speed demon.
Can you please share that?
And he drove me in the ambulance from Pleasant Street to Farmington in what felt like forever was probably 30 to 40 minutes. And so when I got to Farmington, they had wheeled me out. It was so cold. My boots were full of mud and I was covered. And so when they got me in there, they gave me a warm blanket and some more slippers, but at the time they didn't have any that were my size, so they had to give me 4XL slippers to put on. And they were probably this much longer than my feet. And so it was a little uncomfortable, but we finally got out about at 10-ish. And my mom drove me home, and there was no other place open to eat, so we had to go to McDonald's, and I really didn't want that. And I couldn't finish because I had just lost my appetite, and I felt, kind of gross. And for the next week, I lived in my living room watching TV, and it was pretty boring. And so that's it.
We need to scoot. I will still be able to hear, but perfect. Can you click that backpack out of the way? Thank you.
This well right now is a beautiful.
Yay, the moth! Again, Evan, man, you're cracking my screen here with that big smile of yours. Woo-hoo! Thank you.